listen, because the media is out.
كون هاني
How
ناس
come they can report
هاني
about the
ناس
violence
تبدا بفندق
outside
لكسس هنا ما عندكش
when
مشكله
they're in here
تدخل.
with me?
Is that what's happening?
How? I
There's a
don't depend on Libyan TV. I spoke to Libyans who called me. They have nothing to do with politics.
Yeah.
There's there's been panic, there's been
Huh?
some defections, and there's been massive,
Okay.
atrocious criminal bombings. Very bad. I didn't sleep the other night because the bombings did not stop.
how is it tonight?
Okay.
Are they still bombing?
They bombed a bit. They bombed a bit,
I
but
think-
not
yeah.
as much.
I think
NATO's
does it
directly
sound
involved.
like it's
I
bombing
heard that
down
somebody
outside?
told me the Transitional Council. This is somebody who's a foreigner. Was reading the Transitional Council itself in Benghazi has said NATO is involved with the operations.
I don't think that's a
So
good idea
what is
because
NATO
once
lying
it's
about
the-
when it says they're not
The
directing these
Hungarian
operations?
embassy is.
You're ready to leave now. You're ready to get out.
I'm confined in a place I can't move. If I could move, it would have been a different story. I'll be dead honest with you. I was put in a position where I'm confined, and you know, I would have moved on my own. I would have left on my own terms. I've been here for 2 months, and I don't want to leave like a coward at all. Because when I leave, these people,
لا لا كون هاني
they're going to
بالنسبة
face
لي
the
أنا قاعد
nightmare.
معاه للصبح ما عندكش مشكله.
They'll face the nightmare, and I feel like a coward
لا لا ما عندكش
for
مشكله
leaving
ما
these
حشمك شيء ما
people here
حشمكش قدامي.
who are going to live in fear. There's going to be
أنا
gangs, just like in
815
Benghazi.
مدار
They're going to kill each other. For what?
مدار
NATO wants them to kill each other. I feel very bad that Libyans are killing Libyans, and they're not all Libyans either. You know, there's a lot of people who came here because they're from other Arab countries because they thought it's an authentic revolution. Some came because they
ماشي شكرا.
misconstrued religious views.
Oh, also, some just got paid for it, just for money.
Of course. No, of course. And there's, believe me, some did get paid for it. Who's suffering? These innocent people, these children. You know, I've spoken to them. Like, I've seen, like,
Okay.
traumatized
So anyway,
children.
I'm in touch.
A man
I'm not
whose
in touch, but
wife's
I've got the
leg was
contact of the guy
amputated.
who is
People who talk
coordinating
about rape,
the
beheading.
evacuation of
Come on.
international people.
This is the real international communities, people like me, people like you, people like these people, not few governments who act unaccountably. And they do act unaccountably. And the NATO itself is a means to escape democracy. I don't believe we live in any real democracy, but it's only there because it's unaccountable. Because when Obama kills people, or Sarkozy, or Cameron, they say it's NATO. They won't be held accountable. There's no constituency that can stop them. They just say it's NATO. NATO did this. NATO has to be taken.
Jimmy, the TV station has been bombed.
NATO has to be taken to.
You know, in a way, it's been doing this for 10 years already, but somehow in Libya it's worse because it's closer to Europe and we feel for the people more.
I'm sorry, but the thing about Libya is it's a far more important war. The world powers and rivalries now are getting less flexible than they were. They were far more flexible before, but now there's more chips on the table. There's incredible financial objectives at risk. There's a lot of financial. What is it? I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for words, but
it's also the Arab Spring. You know, it also from Libya they can go to Algeria and Egypt.
It's no Arab Spring. Take a look at every single member of the Geneva human rights organizations. Go see who sits on their boards.
Okay.
When you find out who sits on their boards, you're going to see which character these characters, who they are. They're warmongers. They're allergies. They're really not good. And especially all the organizations, Libyan organizations involved here. Al Jazeera was on the board, or the Muslim Brotherhood. And I'm not saying everyone in the Muslim Brotherhood is bad, but I'm saying the leadership has been co-opted for sure. You know, it's a fraud. This war was a fraud. It's a real full. They're all media wars. This was really the media's tipped, and they're doing this to Syria.
So what's happened is you are confined there.
Yeah, we're confined because they're snipers. We have to be safe, right?
And do you think there's much Libyan military? Because I've been told they're all hiding. Like you don't actually see them.
They could be. That could be one of their tactics. You know, hide and fight later. But there's volunteers fighting. There's tribesmen fighting. There's kids fighting. The checkpoints are mostly manned by civilians, some by military, and some by militia and police.
But what can you do
It's
when
mostly
there's
volunteers.
when an
mostly
Apache helicopter comes by? What can you do? I mean, you can't do anything.
Apaches have been attacking the checkpoints. This is the irony. Those checkpoints were meant for security, not for killing civilians. It's very clear. That's what the checkpoint's there. It's not moving around killing people. It could be stopping some mobility, but it hasn't. I've go through the checkpoints, but those checkpoints are there for security. And NATO bombs and attacks the checkpoints with their helicopters. The gunships were in Tajura for the last couple of days. They've been attacking, and I have to tell the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, the Algerians, several former Soviet republics. They cannot let this continue. They are moving east. Believe me, they are moving east. What's happening in Syria is identical to what has happened in Libya. Yeah.
There's some talk that maybe some NATO troops are even coming ashore. Do you think that's possible?
In reality, they are ashore. These are their proxies, but they have special forces. They've been spotted. There's NATO special forces and advisors. What do you call them? They're soldiers. What are they? And they have mercenaries. Even they use things like Blackwater. I don't know if Blackwater is here on the ground, but I'm saying they use security firms, which are mercenaries. That's the irony. They say Libya could not use mercenaries, right? Gaddafi was using mercenaries to kill his own people. When they use mercenaries all around the world, the United States is the biggest contractor of mercenaries in the world. What do the British do? What do they do in Iraq and Afghanistan? What do the Americans do? They use mercenaries. Believe me. They say Gaddafi's a madman, Gaddafi has to go. Okay, maybe you're right, for argument's sake. Okay, well, what about the King of Saudi Arabia? What about the Al Khalifas? What about, the petro monarchs in the Persian Gulf?
Yeah, they've been there for 40 years as well.
Yeah, that's it, my friend. Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. Each one of us tries to make a better world in our own way. I tried my best. Maybe my number's up, maybe it's not, but
No,
I hope other people there believe me, because I didn't come here to make a buck. I didn't come here to make a name. I came here because I didn't want innocent people to be killed. And it's very important to understand that this war in Libya is part of a broader front. It's part of the war in Afghanistan, part of the war in Pakistan, part of the war in Iraq. It's part of the Palestinian front. It's part of the pressure in Lebanon. It's part of what's happening to Syria. It's part of what happened in Chechnya and Dagestan to the Russian Federation. It's what happened in Tibet in Western China. It's part of the coup d'etat against President Chavez and the Venezuelan government. It's part of the pressure, the terrible pressure against the Cuban government. This prevented Cuba from developing. It's part of what's happening in Somalia. And I have to warn people, the human rights organizations, please take a good look at them. See who they serve. See who they work for. See where their funding's from. Because believe me, they can lie and they work for governments. These human rights organizations and such, in Africa, look what they've done to this. They're doing to this continent. Like, there's been famine because of this war in other parts of Africa, because this country financed the agricultural projects or was behind the development.
they don't care. It's just killers.
No, they don't care. I'm sorry.
Last favor to ask you. Can you show us around the area again? I kind of lost it before.
Yeah, I will. A lot of people left in here. This is the mosque.
What, they've gone outside?
No, they're just at the door. These are the pastries I brought up. There you go.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good.
There you go.
Thanks a million. I hope you get some sleep, and I'd love to talk to you tomorrow.
Okay. I heard Frank Lamb was shot in the leg.
That's correct.
I hope he's safe.
He is.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.